Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. It is Season 3, Episode 2. 2 episodes in a week. You didn't think I'd forget about you on a NFL Sunday kickoff, Week 1. We already brought to you an episode earlier this week. Check it out to see how our picks did, and I'll go over them anyway. On this episode, we talk about NFL, we talk about sports gambling, but NFL. It's NFL, and there's nothing more we need to talk about at this time of the year than the NFL. I'm coming at you solo. Austin from Ajax has decided to take all his fame from the podcast in Season 3, Episode 1, and parlay that into a weekend with friends and trying to, sign autographs, kiss some babies, really get his name out there and get his brand out there. Who knows? Maybe he'll have a spin-off show down the road, taking over our listeners, but we'll see what happens there. And maybe we'll get him back. Maybe before he's too big for the show, and we'll have him back for Week 2, hopefully. But we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to make it fast and efficient here so that you can move on and you have enough time to go to the betting window and make your wages for Week 1 in the NFL. I'm going to try to slip in possibly another episode of props, because there's a need of time to look at some of the lines and a lot of the value. And we'll go through some of the value that I've seen in these first 2 games are in the prop market. A lot of varying lines, a lot of different odds makers with different thoughts on who's going to have what on receiving yards, passing yards, rushing yards, and who's going to perform versus who's not. So that's an interesting market I think we need to keep an eye on. But first, I'll go through the agenda here. We'll talk about the KC-Baltimore opener, which ended pretty wild, and the Brazil game, the Green Bay Packers, and the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll go from there. But as we go into Week 1, I again encourage you to look around for the best markets out there, meaning that you should not just have one sports book, and don't get drawn in, even though you should take advantage of some of the promotions. But a lot of the promotions, example, FanDuel, has a 50% to your up to $2,000 deposit bonus. But what that is that if you deposit, let's say $2,000, they'll give you $1,000, but that $1,000 has to be bet on one event, whether it be a parlay, whether it be a game. It's not $1,000 you can chip away on, 100 here, 200 here. It is $1,000 that you need to put towards a one wager, whatever you desire, but one wager that you need to put it on. So if you put $1,000 in, you get $500. Now, if that's your entire bankroll, again, you're going to paint yourself into a corner when you look at the different books and what you can take advantage of. Every nickel counts, guys. Every nickel counts. You know it. I know it. You want to protect that bankroll over 17 weeks of the NFL season. So let's kick it off and take a look back on what transpired on Thursday. Thursday was the big kickoff. The defending Super Bowl champions take on the Baltimore Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs, based on a toe in the end zone, wiped out Baltimore's opportunity to go for the win. Have you seen Harbaugh, when they thought they scored the touchdown, he was pointing to two. He wanted to go for the win or lose. There was going to be no overtime. It was going to be answered right there on the field that very moment, but it was waved off. Toe was of Lively was out, or what the hell's his name? Tight end for the Ravens, had a big game over 100 yards. His toe was touching the white. That's where you want to wear white shoes, my friends. That's give the guys up in the booth a little more challenge to decide if that was out of bounds or not, but you didn't. But going back to this game, it wasn't a game, even though it was heavy hitters, a repeat of the AFC Championship. I wasn't necessarily pumped for this game versus maybe the Friday game and some of the matchups on Sunday. But man, it was a really good game. Kansas City came out. They were blowing the doors off, but Worthy, their rookie first-round wide receiver, 2 touchdowns in this game. And I'm going to go through some of the bets I actually placed. I talked about a few of them on Thursday, same with Austin from Ajax. Now, FanDuel did provide a bet boost, and you got to look for these. And it's basically a free $45, so maximum $1.50 bet. If Kansas City would complete one pass, obviously you take it. You take that $45 and run with it. That's a win. That's a boost. And on a side note, I'm going to try to track my bets, and I suggest you do the same thing. Get a simple Excel sheet, figure out a way to track it. You need to kind of keep an eye on where your money's going, where maybe you're better at props, maybe you're better at over-unders. You need to kind of track and see what works for you and maybe steer your betting as the year goes on in the NFL towards where you are more successful. So we also had, and we stuck with it, put a little wager on Derrick Henry, anytime touchdown. Now, if you look at Derrick Henry's performance, it wasn't a blow your doors off performance, but for sure, we talked about it on the podcast. The Ravens would want to make sure that you've seen their shiny new toys, and their shiny new toy is Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry got that touchdown opening. He was kind of quiet the rest of the game, to be very honest. He wasn't dominating in any way, and I don't expect him to be dominating. He's an older running back, and he's taken a lot of damage. So he'll have value, but he got that anytime touchdown that paid us off. Under 46.5. I mean, the game ended at 47. It was close. Early on, I thought they were going to blow the over-under away based on how they were scoring. Scoring did slow down. A few punts here and there, turnover by Mahomes, but they did wind up getting the over, so that's a loss for us. It happens. Lamar Jackson over 215.5 yards. I had a good sense. You know, you're thinking that Baltimore's going to be playing from behind, which they did. So in the second half, he started putting up the passing totals. I'm going to get back to Lamar Jackson in a bit. Look at Zay Flowers. He had like 37 yards at the end of the first half, 35, 36. And as far as a passing game, he had a few reverses and runs, but Lamar Jackson just couldn't find him. And you've seen that big play in the end zone at the end where they could have tied this game up or, again, went for two and take the lead. And Lamar Jackson missed them. I can't put that on Zay Flowers. Like, Jackson just could not hit him. And maybe that was a scheme, the scheme that the Chiefs came out at half and shut it down on the Zay Flowers situation. But Rashad Bateman tended to be the receiver to go to in the second half. I was really disappointed I didn't get that payout. Successful 2-point conversions. I got no payout. I had wager on with a chance to go for a 2-point and then a successful 2-point. And if that touchdown would have accounted, I would have got that payoff. But that didn't happen, so I got a loss there. Kind of iffy if I'll take that bet again. But took a chance, didn't win. Also, straight up, I took Baltimore on some money I had over in the score account Kansas City to straight up win. And got the win there, so that was pretty good. Now, what I'll say is when you take a look back, and I challenge you to do the same thing, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, and take a look back at what people and their bets and their best bets. And you know what? You really realize that there are very few people out there that really know what the fuck they're talking about. I just can't stand when the only thing somebody hangs their hat on when they're doing their little post and they're doing, their Instagram post or like their tweet is that so-and-so is 1-5 against the spread in the first half, or he's, 8-6 against blah, 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 bullshit. Fuck. Okay. Fuck just like I know fuck. We're going to go here and we're going to talk about what we think is going to happen. Yes. Data guides you to where you want to go, and you'll hear me reference it, but I'm usually referencing a recent trend or what my eyes tell me. You have to watch. That's why NFL coaches watch game film. They adjust. I mean, one pundit, quote unquote pundit, just rattling off stats, which they probably read, was about, the Ravens. I'm taking the Ravens in the first half plus 1.5 because the blah, 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 the Ravens are this in the first half. What the fuck are you talking about? They're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. One, that is a factor. What other teams are they playing that this statistic that you're coming up with are the result of? Is it the Bengals? Is it the Carolina Panthers? Who gives a fuck? You're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. You do have a recent example, and even that's shoddy because that was from a year ago, but it was a reference point. So a lot of these guys are full of shit and give picks just like you and me do. And so watch out. There are good insights out there. Like I'd suggest Bet the Board podcast. They break down every aspect, and I feel that the information provided allows me to make an informed decision. All right. I take the information gathered, the tidbits that are brought out in that podcast, and I would go back on the Bet the Board podcast and re-listen to the season review of each team, a thorough breakdown, and it gives you food for thought. And the stuff you hear in that kind of a podcast makes you think, because it's not just about the stars. It is about the team's secondary. It's about the coaching philosophies. And it really makes you think going into week over week. So I'd suggest going to those resources. And there's a lot of good fantasy podcasts out there. Nothing comes to mind at the moment that allows you to also think on some good matchups that may trigger some thought in your head to change the direction of your betting on a Sunday. So these guys are full of shit out there. Anybody who drops multiple 4 and 6 against the spread, fuck off. Fuck right off, okay? You know shit. Just like I know shit. I'm trying to do the best I can sitting here in the bullpen and putting some, intelligent thinking to why I'm going one way. And that's how I'll position to you. I am on my own. If you want to take the information and use it as a resource, great, but I am not pushing you in a direction or another or trying to pretend I'm some expert by dropping only statistics. I will drop statistics, but only statistics to make me sound smart. I can't do enough talking and enough statistics to make me sound smart, and I think you understand that by just listening to me talk now. Anyway, going into the, just to wrap up that first matchup of the season, great game, entertaining, but the whole Lamar Jackson, people are very touchy on when there's any criticism that is put towards Lamar Jackson. It's weird. He's that it's just, I don't know how to put it. He's very protected that people make excuses for Lamar Jackson or can't have an objective conversation. Where am I going with this? Well, what I'm going with this is that it's okay to look at Lamar Jackson and say, this guy is a 2-time NFL MVP. So the bar is super high on what the expectations are. So when I tweeted earlier this week, if you go to Overrated EXPER2, that's Overrated EXPER2 on Twitter, aka X, you'll see that I tweeted a response to whoever tweeted out. Oh, I think it was Chase Daniels talked about giving Lamar Jackson an A for performance. And my comment was more about, there's something missing out of Lamar Jackson's game that prevents him from reaching that next level. And where I'm going with this, and if you watch this game and you watch the AFC Championship and many other playoff runs, Lamar Jackson, he tends to make plays that nobody can make. Scrambling, making a throw. He had a nice on the throw for a 70-plus yard touchdown on Thursday night. I can't imagine other quarterbacks making. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, obviously, is the best in the world. Maybe Josh Allen, but like Lamar Jackson has a niche. He has the breakdown play. He frustrates you as a defense because you can't cover the length of time he's scrambling down the field, and he makes the low percentage throw a high percentage time. That is impressive, and there is no question that if I'm starting a team and Patrick Mahomes is not available, I'm thinking maybe Lamar Jackson's that next quarterback that at a single game I want him there with a chance. But you can't ignore that, yes, he can make those low percentage throws, but he misses too many of those throws that we've seen, like 2 of them, I think 2 or 3 of them on Thursday, where 20 quarterbacks can make them consistently where he's not. So, and you looked at Patrick Mahomes, he threw that second touchdown to Worthy, and all it was is a recognition of coverage that broke down, and it's almost like, it's almost like a boxer. Oh, you dropped your chin showed. It took a half a second, and bam, I hit my spot. Right timing for the kill shot. And that's what Patrick Mahomes does. He does the kill shot, right? And that was the kill shot right to Worthy, where Lamar Jackson can't do the kill shot. Then that's the problem. I'll give him props when he does it, when he wins that AFC Championship game. But let's not kid ourselves. You could say, and people are saying that, Lamar Jackson was the only reason why the Ravens were in that game. Yeah, you could say, of course he was. He's one of the best quarterbacks. He had a phenomenal performance. You can't argue that there was key throws that were missed. He missed the easier throws that an NFL quarterback makes, and then he makes a lot of throws that nobody on the planet can make, or very few people on the planet can make. Recognize that. He is not Patrick Mahomes until he is. And that's the bar he's being compared to. Don't ignore it. You can't ignore how great Lamar Jackson is, but he's a tier below Patrick Mahomes. But that's not to say I'll take my money if, again, Patrick Mahomes is not available with a guy like Lamar Jackson in a play or go home situation. He's failed up to this point when the chips are all in the middle, but I would still take my chances with Lamar Jackson if Patrick Mahomes is not my other choice. We can't ignore that. So that's my thoughts on the whole Lamar Jackson evaluation. And people are very touchy and want to protect Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, nobody is saying he's a horrible quarterback. He's a great quarterback. Okay? Elite. Now, moving on to the Friday night game. The Friday night game is an interesting one. It was in Brazil, and a lot of the talk is, players didn't want to leave the hotel room. And you know why they probably didn't want to leave the hotel room is when you come to both these teams and start talking about precautions that don't leave the hotel, don't probably bring your family down. What kind of mentality are they going to have going down to Brazil? That's the way it is. And maybe that's the legit way of looking at it, and they have to look at it. But when you see some, comments from players on both sides that are iffy, that why are we down here playing? Well, it's about the money, right? It's about the international. I mean, the NFL cannot get bigger in the United States. Let's just talk about the NFL is about growth. It is about economic growth. You see it from, the transition to the Sunday ticket to YouTube, from ownership, changing rules of ownership because there are fewer and fewer Americans that can afford a single person that can afford an actual NFL team. And there's, if you didn't read it in the news, there's a rule to kind of allow something to do with maybe selling stakes into a football club. So you're going to see more and more changes because those guys like money. They're billionaires looking to be trillionaires. There is no way to look at it differently. So the thought would be here that, we go to 18 games. That's going to happen. 18 games is going to happen. Going to start on Labor Day and end on the American holiday and here a Canada holiday. So the Super Bowl's played and the Monday you're off, which is amazing. You'll have 2 bye weeks, and many of those games, each team will probably play an international game across the world. We already got another Germany game and 2 London games still to go. So that's the NFL that we're going to be living. So going down to Brazil, some of the, one another area, it just frustrates the fuck out of me, is that, and we talked about this on Thursday, on Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday we did the podcast, or Monday, I can't remember when we did it, but we did it. And we talked about the unknown. What is this going to look like? And we thought it'd be a track meet, and it kind of was. We got the overpaid out, which is great. But with the field conditions suddenly creeping up, if you notice, everybody's slipping, and then they got to go to cleats, longer cleats, and they're adjusting on the fly. That's the ridiculous part. Get that shit in order, because as soon as the slipping happens, then you have any analytics pretty much is out the window. Because now a defender can't cover a break, a running back can't stick, his foot into the turf and cut like they are. So, I mean, you're getting an anomaly type of game where it's not necessarily, the players dictating, which they are, of course, but the field plays a big role in the outcome of the game. So that's what we saw there. The slipping was ridiculous. And they got to get that shit in order. But if you go down the way the game looked, I had A.J. Brown as a big game, and he did. Right, he was teetering 30, 40 yards in the first half, and then they went to him, and that big touchdown. They opened the second half. So A.J. Brown, I think they've learned their lesson that you got to keep your big boys happy, and you got to feed him the ball. He's got to celebrate his touchdown. He's got to feel need it, or you're going to hear about it whether you're up or down. You got to keep him happy, and I thought that's what there would be their game plan. And we went to the pay window on the over 70.5 yards, and also him to have a longer than 23.5. Reception and that long touchdown in the second half blew that away, so we went to the pay window there. Jordan Love, 256.5 passing yards. He hit that no problem. Not no problem. He had 260, so he just squeaked past that. And I'll tell you, going through the lines when I talked about them on Tuesday versus actually getting to the sports app to actually make the wager on these props. Some of them I stayed away from because the lines changed dramatically. I had talked about Jalen Hurts passing plus rushing yards, and it jumped up like 3 or 4 yards, so I stayed away for it, even though he did exceed, the raised total. But really, when you see a line that you like and you think you're getting value, you got to hit it. Hit that goddamn line, because it's going to change, and you're going to feel a couple of these bets. I took lines that I shook my head and said, I'm not going to take it, or I'm going to suck it up, like the Green Bay Philly over. It was at 48.5, and 49.5 is what I took it at, and I should have taken it earlier. So I got the win there. And then we have Eagles -2. Got that. I was getting a little scary there because of the 2 field goals that Green Bay had and the kind of the way the score was, the field goals, and it's just the scoring, could have the 2-point conversion that the Green Bay Packers missed. So a lot of things that got me a little scary, but the Eagles pulled it out, and a straight up Eagles moneyline win. So it was very successful, all wins on there, but I can't stress enough is keep your eye on the books, because I had my props and bets there scattered between the Score, DraftKings, and FanDuel. And it might have even been just that instead of one line was -110, it was -108 here that I liked. Why wouldn't I go for the -108 if that's the side I like? You got to keep your options open. And I'll tell you, going into Sunday, and that's what we're going to do next. Actually, I can't walk away from this game without talking about some thoughts. Getting ahead of myself here. And that is that we're talking about Jordan Love, leg injury at the end there. He got his knee bumped. Tough to say what we're gonna find out once they land in Green Bay and do a further examination. But there was video on X where you've seen Jordan Love obviously in discomfort, but walk around on his own with a big limp and then eventually sitting down. And the reports on X from various NFL insiders talk about Jordan Love. Looks like the ACL is okay, but obviously, they got to take a further look and see what's going on there. So keep that in mind, folks. Keep that in mind. That are we going to have another season where top-notch NFL quarterbacks are dropping like flies, which is absolutely significant when it comes to the outcomes of future games and other teams that the Packers will play. So just big news. Keep an eye on that, and we'll go from there. And I'll keep updated once I know something. Because I'm like the next Adam Scheffler here, right? Anyway, moving on. So, heading into Sunday. Fucking amazing. Sunday, week 1, okay? Now, the challenge here that I find for going into Sunday is that I look at recent trends as a factor when it comes to placing some money on these bets. Not to say I'm successful. Maybe I should change my trend, but I'm going to stick with the recent trend. And we don't have much to go on. The starters don't play in the preseason, and even if they did, what trend would you take out of there? So I'm going to go through these with what I think are probably more hunches than anything else. I'm not sitting there at practice. I'm not following every single beat reporter. But I would recommend, again, going to Roto World, actually, is a good follow on X. They update every piece of injury news that you could possibly have. They're on top of that information, both for your betting and your fantasy football needs. So I'd recommend Roto World, a good follow there for Roto World football. There's value there. So if we look to Sunday, I only got a couple notes on a couple games that I think you got to think about before going in. And these are lines based on last night. This is based on Friday night lines. And if something changed, I apologize. And the first game I'm going to talk about is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. Right now, Pittsburgh Steelers are dogs, 3.5-point dogs to the Atlanta Falcons. And we're learning that it looks like, Russell Wilson has a calf problem and that Justin Fields most likely will get the start tomorrow. That's not locked, I think, but it's looking pretty doubtful that Russell Wilson's going to make the start. What a shock! Russell Wilson either gets benched or he's got a little nick. Who's seen that coming? This guy. Russell Wilson is done. And I can't blame the Steelers for, they needed a quarterback. They got him cheap because the Broncos are paying Russell Wilson the boatload, not the Steelers. So what a shock. Russell Wilson can't go because he's old and he's diminished in ability. So I don't even know if it's a big loss, but Justin Fields needs to step up his game because his reputation's falling like a rock. And that only change there was that the line of the over-under for you over bettors is down 42.5 to 41.5. So if you like the over on there, you took it at 42.5, that sucks because now it's down to 41.5 and you can take it. So if that was that 1 point may change your mind, get in there. And I'm going to make Atlanta one of my best bets at -3.5, and I think they'll cover that 3.5. Jacksonville, Miami, another best bet. Again, I'm going to go through all of them, but I'm going to tell you what are more of my best bets. I'm going to go through all of them for the sake of going through them. I may not bet them, but I'll let the ones you know that I think are the best bets and that I will be taking. Jacksonville, Miami, nice matchup. this is Miami's time of year. You know, they're a 3.5-point favorite at home. The over-under is 49.5. Jacksonville's coming in. This is Miami's peak performance time, and that is the early part of the year, right? As soon as it gets cold and there's a coat that has to be put on, they're a little chilly. Tua is nowhere to be found. They can't complete a pass. So look for Miami to play their top-notch football in the first few months of the year and also whenever they're at home. So I like them to destroy Jacksonville. Jacksonville, solid team, but they were kind of in no man's land at the end of last year where they kind of faded out in a division they should have won or they were expected to win. Trevor Lawrence, solid quarterback, but he has some brain farts many times by getting picked off on times he shouldn't. So Miami should be all guns a-blazing at home and cover the 3.5. Cincinnati, New England, this is a surprise because this is most people's suicide or survivor pool pick. This is currently my survivor pool pick. Cincinnati to win over New England. This line has dropped on FanDuel from 7.5 it's from 8.5 to 7.5. The Cincinnati Bengals are favorite. Now, here's where the lines get a little crazy. Is that not crazy, but if I'm looking at just two sports books, FanDuel, and I like the Cincinnati Bengals at -7, the FanDuel has it at -110, where DraftKings has the 7.5 at -108. Which side are you going to take? I'm going to take DraftKings. If that line stays the way it is, I won't bet it on FanDuel. I'll bet it on DraftKings, and vice versa. If you like New England to cover, DraftKings is at -112. To have that 7.5-point cushion. And then FanDuel has it -118. Sorry, -110. Which side would you take? Of course, you take the FanDuel line depending on the side. That's the importance of having options. So what's hanging over the Cincinnati Bengals, which dropped this point, was if T. Higgins is going to play. He popped up in the injury report. He's questionable with a hamstring injury, so he may not play. And this whole, Jamar Chase, he's the guy dictating if he's going to play or not. Because of his, he wants a renegotiation of the contract. If you've seen his quote, somebody asked him, do you want one more penny than Justin Jefferson? He said, no, I want to beat the shit out of Justin Jefferson, and in referencing his contract that he wants versus what Jefferson's contract is. So the reports look like he's going to play, but keep an eye on that, especially fantasy owners of Jamar Chase, that he might drop out the last second, but he's trying to use leverage to get a new contract. And you know what? I'm on the side now of whatever you think is going to work for you to secure guaranteed money that you believe you're owed. Go for it. I mean, it sounds bad. It's pathetic. But if the Cincinnati Bengals thought a player wasn't worth going through the hassle of what they're going through, they cut him. They fucking cut him in a second. That's why Jamar Chase, who's an elite talent, has leverage, and that's why they're putting up with it. They're not even talking that I'm aware of that, he needs to play and follow his contract, because they need him just as much as he needs them. So we'll see what happens there, but keep an eye on that. Still like the Bengals to kind of win by 10 or more. So cover the line, take the Bengals. That's also a best bet to cover 7.5. We go on to Houston, Indianapolis, two teams. Exciting quarterback situations. CJ Stroud, breakout year last year. They're 2.5-point favorites over Richardson, coming back from injury at home. I don't have a best bet on this one, but what I'll say is that I'll take Houston 2.5. Right now, they're guns a-blazing. I think they're a step ahead. Maybe Indy. Indy's a good team. They're a good team, but I think Houston's a little more established, and I think they'll pull this one out. And again, you look at FanDuel, the spread is 2.5, while in DraftKings it's 3. A lot of FanDuel odds are simply better than DraftKings, with a couple exceptions. So keep an eye on that. You DraftKings bettors out there, get another option. Minnesota with Sam Darnold take on the New York Giants. Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. The Minnesota Vikings are a 1.5-point favorite. I do, and again, 2 points on DraftKings, so why would you go there? If you like the Vikings, and I do, and I only like them because I think that they have a lot of talent, despite Sam Darnold, that Kevin O'Connell, their head coach, I think is a top-tier play caller. He obviously had influence on bringing Sam Darnold in, hoping that J.J. McCarthy, former Michigan quarterback and first-round pick, would eventually take over or even start the season. But I think he was comfortable when they signed Darnold that that's a direction they could go and be successful with the weapons that they have. And I think the Giants are a complete, they're dog shit, okay? Daniel Jones is a passenger quarterback while they pay him a big ticket until they can draft one next year. Simple as that. He's nothing more, nothing less. And a 1.5, I think, is a steal. And Minnesota Vikings cover that. That's also a best bet. Take the Vikings. Carolina, New Orleans. This is also many people's thought of a good survivor pool pick. Take the New Orleans Saints. Man, it's I'm also teetering to think that way as well. They're 3.5-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers. I mean, 4 points on DraftKings. Again, why would you go bet there if you can get 3.5 on FanDuel or somewhere else? I don't know here. I like New Orleans. They should win. I'm not going to say that it's a lock. You know, I am going to say it's a lock. Take the 3.5. No, I'm going to say take it, but be very cautious. New Orleans should win this comfortably. Carolina is a division opponent. They play them tough. I don't know what we're going to get out of Carolina. Can't be nothing but up and Bryce Young in that Carolina offense. So have New Orleans covered, but don't be surprised if, Derek Carr is just dog shit. I have more hope that he's not, but you're taking a lot of chances if you go with New Orleans, but that might be the best value play. Arizona taking on the Buffalo Bills in Orchard Park. This is down to 6.5. Bills favorite. And you look at the over-under 47.5 on FanDuel, but DraftKings that have 47. So if you like the over-under, take a look at DraftKings. Now, what are we getting out of Arizona? They had a strong finish last year, somewhat, walking into Pittsburgh and winning. Kyler Murray back. Marvin Harrison Jr., first-round pick. What kind of connection are they going to have? They got a lot of good things going in Arizona, I guess. Will they cover? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the Bills are going to come out strong and cover that 6.5. Go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Hey, oh, Buffalo. I can't remember the song, but it's very catchy in Buffalo. Now I want some wings, man. You talk Buffalo, you get some goddamn wings, some saucy goddamn wings. Oh, yeah. Anyway, let's get focused here. Come on. Focus, 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 focus. We have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the LA Chargers in the 4 o'clock window. The LA Chargers are 3-point favorites, and they are 3-point favorites. The over-under is down to 39.5. This is my Achilles heel, man. It used to be pizza, where I see a pizza and I had to eat it and I wouldn't stop. I don't care if I felt full. Crust and all, dipping sauce and all. Don't do that anymore. But when I see a number in the NFL that's below 40, without even thinking, I get stupid and start thinking, I'm going to take the over. Don't even look at, don't analyze it at all. Just take the over. That's my analytics on I see an over-under that, to me, looks low. But that's a dumb way of looking at it. But I'm still looking at it. I'm looking at my chart right here and seeing 39.5 in an NFL football game. And I start thinking, why can't Justin Herbert throw this ball around? And why can't Gardner Minshew light it up in his mustache in LA? So I'm going to think about it. I'm going to wait till kickoff, see where this goes. Even though it's a 39.5 and probably will go up, maybe I should just wait and think better of it. But as far as the spread goes, not a game I would necessarily take, but probably will since it'll be 4 o'clock and you're looking for something to do, that I think the Vegas Raiders are going to cover. I think Gardner Minshew is a good manager quarterback. You've seen it with the Colts. But when it came to the crunch time, obviously, he's not your guy to take your franchise to that next level. But I think he's good enough to stay in this game against the Chargers. I don't know what the Chargers are. Obviously, Harbaugh, coach, is a difference maker. But I like maybe the Vegas Raiders to cover, maybe outright win this game. Denver, Bo Nix taking on the Seattle Seahawks. And this is a 5.5-point spread in favor of the Seattle Seahawks. 41.5 over-under. And if you want to go to DraftKings, they're at 6 here. So, I'm looking at Denver to cover the spread. I think Seattle wins it, but I found last year that Seattle was hit or miss to, pull away from teams. And, Geno Smith had a solid year, but he'd throw a pick or the offense would just go cold. So I think it's too much. I think Sean Payton, head coach of the Denver Broncos, really does like Bo Nix. And I think he feels that the playbook is open for his quarterback. And I think you'll see more of a veteran type performance from Bo Nix in Seattle. Tough place to play, obviously. They got the crowd. They got the long travel for everybody going up to Seattle. But I really do think that the Denver Broncos cover the 5.5. However, why would I go 5.5 when I can go to 6? So I'll be going, if it stays the same, I'd be heading over to DraftKings and putting my money on the +6 and the Denver Broncos to cover. And we got probably game that everybody's going to be watching at the 4 o'clock window. Dallas Cowboys visiting the Cleveland Browns. I don't even have confirmation yet if CeeDee Lamb is going to play. I can't think why he wouldn't, but due to the fact that he signed his contract late, he had an exemption where they don't need to activate him, but I can't imagine they wouldn't. So, but keep an eye on that. But the Cleveland Browns, I think, are underestimated. They're a good football team. They are a good football team. Stefanski, their coach, I don't think gets the credit. I thought he got the credit last year potentially when he took Joe Flacco and made him a playoff team when Deshaun Watson went down. Let's remember that Deshaun Watson, people are shitting on Deshaun Watson, and personally probably, for whatever reason. But I'm not going to massage the fact. See what I did there? Massage. Got it. You got to like that. You got to like that. That I put that in there, and I had to let you know in case you missed it. I'm not going to massage the fact that Deshaun Watson has not looked like Deshaun Watson with the Houston Texans. However, when he was injured, his last game was a win in Baltimore last year. He got a win, a tough win. And the way that the Cleveland Browns are built, it is not necessarily my quarterback has to be the hero to get through a lot of these teams in the NFL. So I don't think Dallas is all that great. They're a solid football team. They didn't make many moves. Running back situation's kind of a mess. Don't know if they have, they're going to actually have a ground game at all. CeeDee Lamb, they're going to obviously rely on him in connection with Dak Prescott. But heading into Cleveland is simply a better football team. And they're only 2.5-point favorites. And I think they're at least a field goal. I see this being a field goal game, and I think it's going to go on the side of the Cleveland Browns. Lock it in. Cleveland Browns at 2.5. Moving on to it's not a weird matchup, but kind of like what are we going to get here? And that is the Washington Commanders and Jalen Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner, taking the helm in Washington, second overall pick, visit the NFC South, I think. Yeah, NFC South champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield back again. Are they for real? I mean, we were in the worst division in football, but they did have some solid performance. Baker Mayfield looked like he was the right fit for this franchise and what they need. They got some nice weapons, obviously, in Tampa Bay with the Mike Evans of the world and Godwins. They got a pretty good offensive line, like some good weapons there. And this is weird because Washington starts off with a bang. I think last year they knocked off Denver on the road. They looked like $1 million with Tyler Heineke. And then obviously the season went off the rails, and there goes your coach, and there goes your everything went off the rails, and all hell breaks loose, and they clean house. But we're in week 1 again. So Dan Quinn takes over in Washington. What will he bring to the table? Are they ready to contend or at least put up performances against solid teams on the road? So I still like Tampa Bay to cover the 3.5. I'm going to stick with Tampa Bay to cover 3.5, but you don't know. Jalen Daniels could be the next coming of CJ Stroud. He's a winner. He's got talent. And let's see what happens when he's let loose in the NFL. So I still like Tampa, 3.5, but watch out for that game. Also, the Sunday nighter is a playoff rematch of the Los Angeles Rams, Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 4.5-point favorites over the Rams. Now, Detroit, to me, should be potentially the second best team in the NFL. That might sound controversial, but really when you think about it, they pissed away their opportunity to reach the Super Bowl, right? They did. You have to go back. If you cannot have short-term memory, loss here. They had that game, and in my opinion, a couple coaching decisions not to kick a field goal, but at the same time, Jared Goff made a couple good passes that were dropped. Okay? That's the reality of it. But that's the way the game is. You don't catch the ball, you don't win. You don't execute plays, you don't win. But I think, looking back at that NFC Championship game, Dan Campbell didn't make the right strategic decision based on the situation in the game. Instead of relying on this is what we always do. So I disagree with that. But coming into this year, you can't ignore that they are a powerhouse. Okay? They are a powerhouse. They play 14 to 17 games in a dome, and they're going to kick off what I believe the Rams are not fully healthy necessarily. Can't tell you if Puka Nacua is fully healthy at wide receiver, their second-year impact player. And simply, Detroit has too many weapons. I think the Rams are a good team. McVay is a great coach. A lot of people, look at his coaching staff to pick apart for their franchise to take on. But they're outgunned. They're outgunned. The Rams are a team you're discussing. Can they make the playoffs? Can they contend to get in again and make a playoff run? Like get to the playoffs. The Detroit Lions are in the discussion. Can they win a Super Bowl? I mean, wouldn't you, like, when you think back last year, and if you matched up the Lions and the Chiefs, I'd probably still take the Chiefs, maybe, but I'm thinking the Lions have a lot of weapons that may cause a problem for the Chiefs, okay? But, so there's a two teams difference here. One's contending to get to the playoffs, and one team is trying to win the whole thing. Okay, so the Detroit Lions at 4.5 at home, I think, are a steal. So go with the Lions here. That's my thought. And if you look at the New York Jets and San Francisco 49ers going into the Monday Nighter, interesting storylines here. You have your New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers debut all over again. You know what? 1-2 snaps and he's done for the year. And then they had the shit show kind of season where they fucked up and didn't have a backup plan to at least limp by because they have a team that at least can make the playoffs, even though if Aaron Rodgers went down, with average quarterback play, and they had absolute dog shit quarterback play. Okay? Now, they have Tyrod Taylor, my understanding, is their backup quarterback, which I think is a right decision. If some reason, Aaron goes down, Tyrod Taylor can manage. That's been his role in the NFL for years, taking the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs, knowing that he's not going to get me to the Super Bowl, but he's a nice, solid decision maker at behind the helm. Now, going into this game, what are the 49ers, right? The 49ers are 4.5-point favorites in this game. And we lived through weeks on weeks of Brandon Ayuk. Is he going to get traded? Is he not going to get traded? I got sick of the story that he's turned down an offer to go to the Patriots, and then he rejected a long-term offer from the Browns, and then Pittsburgh was the place to go. That's where he wants to play. And then, as we go in deeper into the preseason, bam, he's signed with the 49ers. Big contract. Effective player, but I don't think he's a make-or-break player, in my opinion. And then you got Trent Williams, impact left tackle, maybe the best. He restructures his contract. He comes back. And I guess where I'm going with this, and throw in a CMC, still looking like he is not necessarily 100%. What are the 49ers going to be coming into this game? Are they going to be the machine that we think they're going to be? I don't know if they are. Right? And I think the Jets, the way they play on the defensive side of the ball, we could see the same 49ers that we've seen against the Green Bay Packers at home and the Detroit Lions at home, where teams can move the ball on them and or the defenses can stymie these 49ers. And keep in mind, when we say stymie, the New York Jets could shut them the fuck down. The New York Jets could shut them the fuck out. Not literally maybe off the scoreboard, but really cause concern that if the Jets go up and they go up by, let's say, 2 scores and the 49ers have to chase, good luck. Good luck moving the ball in a quick manner and not turn it over with this Jets D. That's the danger. And that's why I think the 4.5 points is way too many. And I actually like this, that the Jets will cover the 4.5 as one of the best bets that I have. I like it. I love it. And I'm just intrigued what kind of 49ers team we're going to see, because I think the Jets team we're going to see, even if it was the team from last year, they're in a game. They're going to be in a game with this team, this 49ers team that, their window is closing. Their window is closing, and they're another year older, missed opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Yes, Shanahan, one of the best offensive minds in modern day. The 49ers have tons of weapons. But, I think this is going to be kind of that step back in their franchise to really look forward. But they're all in, as they should be. But I think the Jets get it done and cover. Maybe not win, but they keep this game close. Well, those are my thoughts on the NFL and the Sunday card here today. What other thoughts do I have? Do you care about my thoughts? I don't think you do, other than what you heard about the actual matchups. We want to keep an eye on the Sunday And a lot of the pro bettors obviously look at the early Sunday lines to see if they can grab something right away. So keep your eyes open. Take a look at the different books. Pay attention to what the offers are out there, what the strings are, because they are attached to what, if you take a bonus offer, you probably have to play your money out at least once over, if not more, to be able to take out and withdraw from your account. So educate yourself, take the time, shop around, and have some fun. Keep your bankroll in check. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to manage my bankroll and not be depositing by week 2. And I suggest you do as well. Well, anyway, pleasure was all yours. The Overrated Experience for Season 3, Episode 2 is out. Have a great day and good luck. Bye-bye.